Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy.
Abraham, I have been wanting to ask you this for years. I am so grateful for this opportunity. And I'm shaking. I can feel I'm about to shed something huge. I'm a teacher. And therefore, the work that I offer to others, which of course is always about how I work with myself, I want it to be the best I can offer them. And I blend personal growth work with metaphysical and spiritual work, coming from the thought that we are spiritual, but very much also identified at times with our human experience.
Well, everything that you see here that is in this is the basis of the book that we are writing right now. Everything that is here is spiritual. You cannot separate material from spirit. Yes. Because everything that you see is an extension of that spirit.
So in my work, both my internal work and my work with those I'm honored to work with, I try to bring together, let me say this differently. It seems to me, and I'm completely open to drop this belief today, that there's value when someone is stuck for a long period of time in a certain painful pattern, myself, my clients, my students, that there can be value in unwrapping that ball of yarn to go, where did this crazy, insane, false belief get started? And that in tracking back in our human experience and our interpretation of it, how we formed a negative belief system that's then attracting what we don't want, there can be a discrimination and a detachment that allows us to go, oh my God, that was never who I really was, that enables us to shift out of it. I'm talking about when something comes up over and over and over in someone's experience and they just can't seem to transcend it, meditate out of it,
vortex it. The thing that's tricky about that, and first of all, we want to say to you that you are a really good teacher. And next we want to say that your choice of words is really wonderful. And as you were expressing so clearly and cleverly what you're expressing, we could follow your train of thought completely, and we want to say to you, you're not wrong. That's not wrong. But to unravel and trace that back, let's start in this place. We said earlier today to a couple of different people that when you stand in your now with an issue, like someone might be wanting to talk to you about an issue, that they want to talk about this indication, this manifestation or this situation, which is an indication of a pattern of thought that they've got going on. It's a pattern of thought. It's not a thought that started somewhere and is still stuck somewhere in their vibrational craw. It's a pattern of thought. So that thought led to another thought, which led to another thought, and to intricately unwind all of that would take someone maybe of your caliber who could really stay with them long enough. But what we've noticed every single time somebody tries it is that they get stuck, even stucker, because as they're traipsing back through all of that, they don't mean to, but still they are doing it. They are activating all of those resistant vibrations and then just keeping law of attraction, bringing it to them so they cannot shake loose of. It's not like somebody said something to them when they were 3 or somebody did something to them when they were 3. And if they could just get back there and understand it, it would be done, because that just started what they were thinking about when they were 4, which kept them going when they were 5, and which kept them going when there's just too much to unravel. And it is just ever so much simpler to help them to understand that they're just not being who they are. Now, there are a lot of people, we know that a lot of the people on this planet today, you could not bring to a gathering like this where they could comfortably hear from a spiritual entity about this vortex of creation. There are some bridges that need to be made. And everybody isn't ready for that. But the unraveling of things, Jerry tells a story that supports what you just said in a very powerful way, that he could not stand to eat green beans. And one day was being offered them at a meal with a grandfather, and the grandfather had raised the green beans. They were the most magnificent green beans. They'd been prepared to perfection, and grandfather could not stand it that Jerry wouldn't even put one in his mouth. And so Jerry says, it's the only thing I don't eat. I eat just about everything, but I cannot stand green beans. Don't know why, don't care why, don't want green beans. I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that, but no green beans, please. And so grandfather said, do you know why you don't like green beans? And Jerry said, no. When you were little, a baby, your mother read an article that green beans were especially good for you, so she gave them to you for breakfast, and she gave them to you for lunch, she gave them to you for dinner, she gave them to you for breakfast, she gave you green beans, green beans, green beans, green beans, green beans. And that made sense to Jerry. It was like logical. But the green bean story, we got to tell you, we love you very much, is not much better than the karma story. In other words, it's just another excuse. It's like another free pass. Oh, okay, then I can let that go. And there are so many people that are willing. There are people who will actually give you what they call past life regression, and will actually dig up a monster that was never in your bushes and assign a sexual predator to you to explain why you're not happy about something now. And we just think there's a much easier way of going about it. And the much easier way of going about it is just to say, hey, get their attention. You deserve to feel better than you do. You deserve to feel better than you do. And you're carrying stuff around that you don't need to. And you've got a powerful mind that you have the ability to focus. And then show them. You can show someone real time. Someone could be so discouraged they would be ready to slit their wrists. And if you could visit with them for a minute and distract them long enough to focus upon something as inane as thinking of a word that feels good to them that starts with the letter X. Takes a while, but there are a lot of them. You could distract them from their discomfort. And in the moment of recognizing that it had lifted, you could say, see, it passed for just a moment because of the power of your mind. Seriously, it is the long, hard path to try to unravel. And it is the short, immediate path to just align with who you are. Because, you see, and here's a sort of winning, convincing conversation to really bring this home for you. We, who represent your inner being, never come out of the vortex. So we never come out and walk with you down that long and winding, unraveling path. We just stay where we know you are and call you over. And eventually you come. Quite a few of you have to croak first. But eventually you come. You see. Next, we want to say to you that there is no one right path. And there is no client that you interact with who is just like any other. And so when we said you were a very good teacher, we meant it completely. And sometimes you have to feel your way about what's the best way to help them find their way. We were talking with a woman one day who was really resistant to everything that we were saying. And it was clear to us and to her and to Jerry and to Esther that the conversation, it was a telephone consultation many years ago, she just wasn't having any of it. She really wanted a fortune telling, and that's not what we offer. We wanted to give her the key to her vortex, even though it was before vortex terminology. So we could see that she was having none of what we were saying, and so we decided to distract her from her issues, knowing that the whole time she had been prodding at her problems with us, that the solution had been highlighted too. So she had never been in a better opportunity to go into the vortex, because she had highlighted. You can't highlight the problem without highlighting what's in the vortex too. Is that helpful to know? So here it was all activated and vivid, and here we were right there calling her in. So we said, let's talk about blue glass. Why in the world would I want to do that? Well, because blue glass is beautiful. Well, she protested, but we persevered, and we spoke about blue glass. Talked about textures and colors and applications and so on. Then we said, let's talk about butterflies. Same thing. She didn't want to, but we did. We talked about butterflies, sizes, shapes, colors, where they are, how they migrate. Then we said, let's talk about feathers. That was just ridiculous to her, but we didn't care. Talked about feathers, what you can use them for, where they come from, different birds that they come from, different applications of them, what they are about. And then the consultation was over. Esther hung up the telephone, said to Jerry, she will be asking for her money back. And Jerry and Esther were in San Diego at the time, and they went to La Jolla for lunch. And they parked the car, and as they got out of the car, Esther bolted into a shop. And Jerry couldn't believe it, because George's was that way, and Esther seemed to have lost her mind. And he came back. What are you doing? Well, just come with me for a minute. Why? What do you want to see? I don't know. Just come with me. So he followed her in. She did not know what the impulse was about. Deep in the back of this shop was a wall of blue glass. Not a shop they had been in before, not blue glass that they wanted, but the most magnificent display of blue glass ever imaginable or ever seen anywhere. Esther didn't associate it with the conversation on the telephone. Then they had lunch at George's, and then they went down to the cove, the most beautiful place where the land meets the sea. It is a place they go often. And as they were walking across this beautiful lawn, a flurry of butterflies surrounded them that was so intense that they had to stop talking so that they didn't eat them. And still, Esther is not making the connection, and Jerry hadn't heard the consultation, so he was not aware of what the butterflies were about. And then, as the butterflies cleared, a little Asian boy from across the way, about 3 or 4 years old, came running to Esther. It was clear he was coming directly to Esther. Esther thought, do I know you? And he had something, a feather, handed it to Esther. And in the moment that she took this gift of a feather from this little boy who just felt compelled beyond imagination to give her this feather, can you imagine how the universe has inspired this little compliant being? Tuned in, tapped in, turned on. Pick up that feather and take it to that lady. Pick up that feather and take it to that lady. He heard it so clearly, he picked up that feather and he took it to that lady for no other reason than to confirm to Esther that when you deactivate anything that's bothering you and focus upon anything without resistance, the universe will deliver to you the full-blown manifestation of it immediately. Within an hour of the conversation, not only did all of that manifest, it all manifested one on top of the other, because the universe always yields to you. That's what this vortex is. All the things you want, swirling with the perfect avenues to deliver them to you through the path of least resistance. But you can't have resistance, or there is not a path of least resistance. There's a path of great resistance. Don't you love knowing that? Well, Ben, then you already knew that. Good time for a segment of refreshment.